Man, let me tell you, trying to get the crank out of this old block. Now this is a 1971 block that came out of my 71 Plymouth Satellite. But trying to get the crank out with the pistons in is not easy. This thing sat around, as you can see, it's all rusted up. I pulled it out in the late 90s and put a 360 in that. I mean, it does have floating pins, but look at this. I broke one of the pistons trying to get it out, beating it with a hammer. That's sketchy. But I've got to get these, at least 4 of them out of there. Now the only thing I really want to save is the crank. I'm not too concerned about the block because this is the block that I'm going to use to practice on a second round. Do a second round of practice. I'm not even sure you could, I don't know. I'll check it out, see if you can have it bored over, but it's a 318 block, so I'm not too concerned. I'd like to save the crank without marring it up, but driving these pistons out is becoming a major pain. Anyway, let me get back to work on this. This is how I had to remove 2 of the rod bolts through the cylinder. You can't turn the crank. So once I got the piston out, the 2 pistons that prevented me from getting the last bolt out, then I can just remove that last nut, get all the caps off, and then I'll see what's holding the crank from coming out. Go from there. Let me say, if you're willing to only go to 9/32 instead of the 5/16 for the main feeds, it's a super easy job. All the 1/2 inch stuff is straightforward. I mean, you can drill it really easy, the main cap and all that. And then, as the one guy said, these are step drilled, 9/32 and then they neck down. So you've already got a guide. You don't need a jig or anything. It's already lined up. These things just drill out really easy, all the way into the main galley. So if you want to go to 9/32, you're only 1/32 smaller. And a street engine, for sure, I mean, under 7,000, open these passages up a little bit, make sure you have plenty of flow, modify your pump. I mean, you'd be good to go. Now, if somebody wants to turn 82, 8,500, I can see maybe going to the 5/16, but being this is all under pressure, I just don't see it. And these just drill out really easy. Taking out that that's it. And you look through here. This one right here. Boom. There you are. Right into the galley. So opening up those passages, that would be super easy with a 9/32 bit. And open up all your 1/2 inch, mod your pump and your pickup, and you're going to be good to go. There's no reason to ruin a block. Okay, as far as the crossover, we just estimate the center, prick punch it, we'll drill on an angle, which is this here. We just make sure that we're going to have clearance when we turn that in, so we'll drill that just a little bit on an angle. We got to make sure we're right in the center of that galley. One guy gave a tip to drill a small hole first. So drill the small hole first, then we'll go in with the 7/16, tap it out, which you got to tap it surprisingly deep. Otherwise it's hard to get this started. You have to go right down to the bottom of the galley before this will start to actually thread in. Then we can get about 4 or 5 threads in it. And you may have to tap it just a little bit more to get the finish line up. We'll screw it in without that cap on there, so we'll have clearance. Anyway, we're going to start right here. Estimate right here, they perfectly centered. We're going to make guys e-brake, grip, whatever they got to do to navigate
approximately 165 degrees of right-hand turn. You're going to come through here. Giant
small hole
start here.
And I'll come back in a minute. Look what we're watching. Thanksgiving edition. Motor Trend on Demand. Okay, once I drill the first hole, I take a little pick because I can kind of tell if I'm actually centered in the galley. Yeah, that's good. Centered up. As long as we don't get too close to that lifter bore, should be fine. Now we can go with the bigger drill, then tap it. After drilling this out with the big one, 7/16, I ended up finding a 1/2 inch 12 point, which actually fit perfect on the tap. The 14mm 6, it kept jumping on here and it kept stripping itself out. And pretty much with the cast iron, it appears you can just do everything dry. You can use some tap magic last time, but I might have to use some of that on the tap. But as far as drilling everything dry works great. Okay, once you run your tap in there a ways, you can start your fitting, possibly. I tried starting it once and I didn't have my tap in there deep enough. See how this goes. Like I say, we have to tap it. Get it all the way around the extra turn. Let's see here. This may not go. I have to tap it some more. Kind of hard to get a wrench in there on that thing. But it's a pretty tricky wrench right here. It's tight. Trash truck. And from there, run our pipe. Just like that. See, there's no way you can screw it in with that nut on there. It'll be hit. The angle looks a little steep, but at least I had plenty of clearance on this. The other one I did, I had to actually grind off just a little bit to get it to turn that last turn. I'm thinking you're not supposed to have to put sealer on this thread, but I would pull that back out and put some type of sealer on there.
Job?
What is it? That'll do the job? What'd you say? You got a brand?
It would do the job.
What is that?
It's a brand new tire. It would do the job.
Okay,
It would do the
sweet.
job. It'd
Yeah,
be
we got a new
perfect.
tire. Now we can haul some engine parts around.
Let's go.
Also, putting new tires on the little trailer.
I need to.
I tried and tried, dude, and I could not get this to seat, the tubeless tire. So I just went down to Tractor Supply and got some new tubes. And so we're gonna put these on with tubes. There's the new one. It's done. There's the old one I'm fixing to do. Okay. He's already hit it about 10 times. Let's see if he can actually do it.
What the? Dude!
There we go. That's it. Finally.
Good thing I was wearing
Well, that takes some
gloves,
power
'cause I
to-
have my finger right there on this.
That takes some power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, he's got it now. We can clean up the mess and take that to the trash. Okay, now this is very odd. This block that I'm fixing to use, I was gonna go and drill the holes out to at least 9/30 seconds, and it's done. Past 5/16. I mean, this is the one I used before and I had the supercharger on it, but I never touched it, dude. I got it back from the machine shop and just put it together. And so something's really fishy. Check this out. 9/30 seconds. And it goes all the way through too, into the galley, because it's past my mark. 5/16. And a couple of them, there feels like there's a little burr at the bottom. But that's into the oil galley. And the front one, I don't know, this one's both ways. And I didn't think, I mean, I don't know, man. Anyway, so I can tap this. I could tap this one and then run my crossover tube. I'll be done. Dude, I mean, I was shocked because I didn't take this to a Mopar shop. It was, it wasn't Forbes. I can't remember. That place is out of business now. They did racing engines, but they did regular, you know, they were just a rebuilder. And so anyway, I started checking everything else, and all this other stuff is 1/2 inch too. I mean, the cap is even to 1/2 inch in both of its holes. It's the other cap on that other 360, the 74 I had to drill out, and then that's opened up through there, and I took this off. Luckily, I took the oil filter cover thing off, and look, this is full of bugs. Anyway, I'm going to take this plug out and the back plug out and make sure those are drilled to the 1/2 inch. And I got the pump and drilled it. What I'm going to do with the pump is I'm going to use a high volume, low pressure. So that way I have the volume that I need, but I don't really overpressure and put too much torque on this little bitty micro drive that these Chryslers have. Anyway, so this is interesting. This thing's been drilled, man. But I am going to have to knock out these two plugs here, take the plugs out the back, because I've got to clean this thing thoroughly, dude. I mean, it's still got grease and stuff, and it's sat for so long. I had to bottle brush all the holes before, because they all had mud daubers in them. So I'm going to go ahead and just take those plugs out, and that way I can get a straight shot through there and clean everything up. And the only thing I need to do is set screw this one, run my crossover tube, and this block, and it'll be ready to rock and roll, even for high RPMs that I will not be using. That's, man, I don't know. I don't know, man. That's just weird. Oh, those are big, oversized like that. It's just weird. Anyway, what's really sweet about cast iron is you don't need any lubricant at all for drilling or tapping, and man, it makes the cleanup super easy as far as you know, the chips, the metal chips that are in there, you just blow them right out the end. I mean, everything's super easy cleanup. See how easy it taps. I don't go too far in there, but it's dry as a bone. All the chips are coming out the bottom. Easy peasy. I'm blocking off the hole from this side, and I have my crossover coming here that'll feed this end, feed the bearing, and then feed the cam, which then goes to the rods. Pull this out here. Here's the V. And we'll see see how the set screw goes in there, if it will.
We'll find out soon. The closer we get, the louder the sound. Huh?
Let's go just a little bit more. Get below that.
It's broken. It's just a
Yep, need just a little bit more in there. So we're not interfering with the bearing, the upper shell and the saddle. I'm just amazed, dude, how all these holes were already drilled. It's just, it's a trip. Everything was totally drilled out and ready to rock and roll. I didn't have to mess with that other block. This one was set. But anyway, it was a good learning experience. And it's gonna be good.
We can't hear anything else but the music.
A little bit deeper.
Wow. It is? It was so loud it broke my noise-o-meter.
Wow.
That
we
ought to be
were off the
plenty.
charts. Yeah, playing music is the best.
It's fun to play music.
Now all I've got to do is clean this up. I gotta get the degreaser. Maybe even take it to the car wash
Practice our music.
and
If we don't keep practicing,
put my two front caps back in.
Guys,
Plugs,
oh,
core
have
plugs.
to go reactivate my bubble. Bubble?
We'll be in business.
Hey, I have an idea. Hi, Agent Wilson. We need your help. As fast as you can.
See what we got.
I know how we can solve this, guys. I'll be back. Right, okay, come back soon.
Guess I should put some Loctite on there, right? Check the depth of it.
Rosie Black, I'm so glad that you can help me. Can you sit?
Yeah, I'll put a little Loctite sealer. That's perfect. We'll be getting this side fed from the crossover,
Can you sing a scale?
and that'll feed the one rod
Scale coming up.
in the can. Perfect.
Ah.
Looks like it's time to put this tubing bender to use. I can't even remember when I bought it. I'm talking many years ago, and I don't know, decade? I'm not even sure. It's never been used. We're fixing to put it to use. Looks like success to me. Man, that's a brake line, and that stuff is stiff. It's hard to bend. And now, 100% for sure, when I get this thing together, I'm gonna prime it, dude, so I can see how much is coming out around the lifters. Make sure that there's no leaks in any of these fittings. Because that seems kind of sketchy, dude. It was really hard to get down in there because you couldn't really bend it and then stick it in. It was just, it had to be like a straight shot, and so hopefully that holds up. But yeah, now gotta clean this whole thing up, start putting it all together. I do need to I gotta clean up the caps, and then the main studs I'm gonna take 2 threads off each one in the very bottom. And then also with the head studs, I was reading on it too, you take a thread or 2 off the bottom so that way it doesn't try to push out on the cylinder. Take a couple threads off it so you can bottom it in there without actually tightening them down. Then you can put your nuts on and tighten them from there. And then also where is it? This here, I was gonna machine the caps, but the main girdle, I'm gonna have to give me some washers, a little washer set for that to raise it up so that way I can clear the top of the cap. Otherwise you're gonna take this off, and then I was just looking at it and it just makes it look like I don't know if it'll make it weaker or not, because you got this section right here. Yeah, you got this section right here.
We
Watch
got
out, watch out.
that. We got that one.
Yeah, anyway, I'm just gonna-
That one and that one. And we got this too.
Yeah, you got that too.
And
That's
we
for the
got,
cranks
and
now.
we got this. And
Yeah. I gotta get another one of these too, a new one.
And
That one's got a
that
few
one,
miles
and
on
that
it.
one, and that one. And
But
we
anyway,
got
I gotta get me some
that,
washers so I
and
can
that, and that,
space
and
up my
that.
girdle
We got
just a little
your
bit.
job and that, and that, and
Okay.
that, and that. We got your.
Looking good, dudes.